Hey everybody, welcome. It is Monday night and I have a lot to tell you about a singer named David. And if you didn't know him before, you might know him now. And if you don't know him now, you need to know who he is. He's an upcoming R&B singer. He spells his name kind of weird, D4vd, but he goes by David. And the reason he's making big headlines ain't because of his music. It's because of the dead body that was found in his Tesla. Not just any dead body, a teenage girl found rotting in the frunk of his Tesla. And since this happened, the number of coincidences that have been piling up between the singer, known as David, and the teenage girl, definitely identified as Celeste Rivas Hernandez, is uncanny. We've been adding to them every night, and tonight there are more, including really weird TikTok posts that he forwarded from other people showing meat being cut up, suggesting if a girlfriend did that, maybe this was what would happen. There's a lot of really strange stuff, and because there's so much information, tonight I have for you a full timeline of everything that has happened, when it's happened, and how it corresponds with ages. It's very important because, as we all know, it's not just a potential murder, it's also a potential underage sex crimes, because that girl in the trunk was a girl. She probably hadn't yet turned 15. And the timeline I'm going to tell you tonight takes her back to about age 12. You heard me. Got a great lineup for you. Not only are you going to hear from Charles from TMZ, who's got a lot of information, but also I've got a true crime podcast panel who's going to lay all of this out for you. Also, I've got new information on the death of that sailor, Angelina Resendiz. I mean, in any true crime, we can usually find out something, but because this is military justice, it has been so under wraps, except that we have an insider who was actually in the hearing last week. And we found out a hell of a lot about the guy who was behind bars awaiting some kind of justice in this young woman's death. And as it turns out, this young man has some pretty bad skeletons in his closet. And when I say closet, that's also where Angie was found. Her mother is on with me tonight. She was in the hearing because she's allowed to be. She's going to talk to me a little bit about everything we learned in this case. And then also, I absolutely can't believe the trend that has happened in the last 15 years in my long, long true crime career. But it's a trend I thought had to be a mistake. Victims of crime being bullied by trolls. Again, victims of crime, not the criminals, the victims. And if the victims died, their family members being bullied by online trolls. I know, I don't get it either. But you can ask the family of Shanann Watts, who was murdered by her husband, Chris Watts. He also murdered their children. Shanann was pregnant. Shanann's family has been relentlessly bullied. You can ask the kids' parents from the Idaho 4 murders. They are also bullied online. Joe Petito, death threats after Gabby was killed. It's unconscionable, but tonight, a bully hunter, somebody you've seen on Netflix, and he's about to go on A&E, not before he's on this show tonight. You're going to meet him. He's going to tell you about what he's doing to fight back against these scuzzy people. I want to start here, though. It was 2 weeks ago today that the LAPD was called out to a towing yard because of a stench that was coming from the trunk of an impounded Tesla. I know you know what they found. The badly decomposed body of a 14-year-old girl who likely spent her 15th birthday the day before rotting in that trunk. The Tesla belonged to an up-and-coming R&B singer, a young guy who was away on a world tour at the time that that body was found in his vehicle, but he's not away anymore. David, as he's known, has gone off the grid, radio silent, as disturbing connections to that teenage girl just keep piling up. And now LA police have confirmed to our show that they are actively looking for more connections, AKA evidence. A statement they sent to us begins by confirming the search that we told you about last week. Quote, on September 17th, 2025, detectives from Robbery Homicide Division served a search warrant on the 1300 block of Doheny Place in connection with the death of Celeste Rivas It goes on to say this: several items of evidence were recovered and will be analyzed by detectives in the coming days. This is an ongoing investigation. Investigators are following up on several leads, end quote. Well, that's pretty, I don't know, stark, but it says what it needs to say and it doesn't go any further. For several months, neighbors say the aforementioned Tesla, where Celeste's remains were hidden in the frunk, had been parked out in front of a home where David was living, a home that was raided, the same home that was raided by the police. TMZ reports that the home had been rented by David's manager and that David had indeed been living there before he went on tour. TMZ also reports that detectives spent 12 hours looking for blood stains or blood evidence in that home, very tight-lipped about whether they found it. And on the very day of that search, the rest of David's U.S. tour was canceled. And a few days after that, the global tour went away as well. Celeste Rivas Hernandez had been missing since April of 2024 when she was just 13 years old. 13! In April of that year, David had just turned 19. He's now 20. And in a moment, I am going to get to why age matters so much in this mystery. But first, a vigil was held yesterday for Celeste in her hometown of Lake Elsinore, about 70 miles southeast of Los Angeles. Her brother Matthew says on the day she disappeared, she was on her way to see a movie with her boyfriend, whose name was, you guessed it, say it with me, David. Before I go on, you should know this. There is no definitive proof at this point that the David Celeste was dating is the singer of the same name, nor is there concrete proof that a girl named Celeste that the singer appears to know is in fact the dead teenager named Celeste. But as I said days ago, police really hate coincidences. And tonight we know these coincidences were on full view as far back as October of 2022, when Celeste Rivas Hernandez was just 12. Let me repeat, 12 years old. At that time, David, the singer, was 17 and taking part in a group chat with his fans on Discord. And in the chat, he wrote, "Celeste in here?" To which someone named Celeste replied, "Hi, David, bark." The two seemed familiar with each other, which means if this really was Celeste Rivas Hernandez in the chat, whose birthday was September 7th, they may have actually connected when she was only 11. Fast forward, December 2023, a demo of a love song by David leaks out online, and the name of the demo song is Celeste. Days later, on January 11th, 2024, David appears on a live stream with a girl who looks an awful lot like Celeste Rivas Hernandez. The girl tells him, "We need to delete this." David tells the moderators, quote, "Mods, can we delete all vids? And then as soon as the stream ends, delete the stream too?" The following month, February 2024, Celeste Rivas Hernandez goes missing for the first time before returning home. February 26, 2024, David posts something on TikTok and another user comments, and I quote, "Waiting for LAPD to get your ass for messing with a 13-year-old girl." A month later, March 28th, 2024, David's fans discuss rumors that he's dating someone, and one of the fans writes, "Yeah, her name is Celeste." April 5th, 2024, Celeste Rivas Hernandez is reported missing. Her brother says she was going to the movies that day with someone named David. Almost 3 months later, June 27th, 2024, David reposts a TikTok video of someone chopping up meat. The caption reads, quote, "Me if I see her talk with other dudes." Skip ahead to February 2025. The music video for David's song, "One More Dance," is released, and it features a body being dragged and put into the trunk of a car. David plays both the killer and the victim in the video. 1 month later, March 2025, David releases his Withered album. 5 months later, August 5th, 2025, David starts his world tour. And 1 month later, on September 3rd, 2025, neighbors in the Hollywood Hills, near to where David had been staying, noticed the singer's Tesla abandoned on the side of the road. 3 days later, September 6th, the car is towed to an impound lot. The very next day, September 7th, is Celeste's 15th birthday. But one day after that, September 8th, workers at the impound lot call police because of a terrible stench coming from the Tesla that had just been towed there. Police open the trunk and discover the badly decomposed remains of Celeste Rivas Hernandez. She's wrapped in plastic. This Celeste has the same tattoo on her right index finger as the singer David does. It reads, "Shh." Now, much of what we have known about this case for 2 weeks, and many of the facts in that timeline, they were first reported by TMZ, who have been digging on this case every single day. And earlier, I caught up with TMZ's executive producer, Charles Latibeaudiere. Here's our conversation about the case. I'm always curious when it comes to a vigil for someone who is a victim of a violent end. And for all we know, I don't know how Celeste died, but she was certainly treated horrendously in death. I always wonder if the killers show up at the vigils. Did you see or do you know of any evidence of police who were at that vigil, or maybe even undercover officers just watching to see who showed up?
There were police officers there, but as far as a presence that made you think they were watching, there wasn't anything obvious that I saw in the video. But they could have been there, and we know that that is an MO, that's not just something you see in movies and stuff. Like, it really does happen. So
Scott Peterson.
Yeah, exactly. So you know, the police detectives, I'm sure, I would think, are aware of that, and that maybe they did have people there. I mean, that's a really good point, Ashleigh, and maybe they did. But again, there's been not only no arrest, there's no named person of interest and no named suspect, which doesn't mean the police don't have a suspect.
Right.
Just means they're
Close
not
to the vest.
Yeah, they're just not willing to share it with us yet.
I'm looking at other things, and so are people online, and I know TMZ is as well. His posts are really starting to stand out. Like, he reposted someone who was cutting up meat and said, quote, "Me if I see her talk with other dudes." Now, he didn't write that, but he reposted it from someone else, and it clearly shows he would either cut up the person the girl was talking to, or he'd cut up the girl. That was sent before, obviously, Celeste was found murdered. But then there's another one of him washing his sneakers that she'd been photographed in. These are all, again, by themselves, not much. Together, they're forming a picture.
Yeah, you know, we're talking today about the lyrics, and you know, we've talked about romantic homicide, and those images that you're just talking about, all sort of paint an image of an artist, right? Like, clearly, the best case scenario, you could look at that and say, this is just an image, a very macabre image he wanted to have out there for himself as an artist. But in light of what has happened now, it's impossible to not look at those things through a different lens. Now, that's maybe unfair to him as far as legally speaking, because again, he's not a suspect. But when his car, at the very least, we can say his car is connected to this crime. And now you start looking at all these things. It's hard not to look at it and go, what's going on there? You know,
uncomfortable. I mean, not only that,
very uncomfortable.
Charles, you know, he is apparently, you know, he'd been selling these blood-spattered T-shirts.
Blood-splattered shirts, yeah.
Yeah, a casket on the stage, part of the act. Then there's music video with a body being put into a trunk. Again, none of it would stand up in a court of law, but looking at all of these things together, it does give you a picture of somebody whose mind works a little differently.
It definitely works a little differently, but you know, on the other hand, you would say, I'm sure his attorney would say to you, that's his art, right? And you can't prosecute someone or arrest someone based on their art.
It's true. He hasn't been accused of anything. He hasn't been named as a person of interest in this particular case. It just happens to be that it's his car where the body was found, and it's his home that they raided, and that tells us a lot. Like even when Diddy was in limbo, we talked about the fact that they'd raided 2 of Diddy's homes. I think an arrest might be imminent, and what do you know? I do want to ask you, though, about the sales of his records and the streams. None of this has affected him in a bad way.
No, I mean, as far as his music career goes, it sounds really weird and macabre to say, but it's helped. It has helped put David on the radar screen of listeners around the country. His album just re-entered the Billboard 200, which is the album charts, and that would not have happened without all of this attention and people, listening to like, oh, who is David? And actually, we do a lot of talkbacks with our affiliates around the country here, and I've had the question asked several times with people going like, I didn't know about this, didn't know about his music, and I've been listening to it now. And that's exactly what's happening. His streams, his song Romantic Homicide had its biggest week ever streaming on Spotify last week. So people are listening, they are checking out his music.
To that end, can I just ask you about all of the chatter online about, and I think this is important, about the age of Celeste, who I say did not make her 15th birthday. No way. You're not that decomposed one day after your birthday. So she was 14 when she was, either died or was killed.
Right.
And as we go back in time, we have the possibility of them having chatted or met online at age 12. Why is there not more attention being paid to that? Or maybe legally speaking, is there?
Legally speaking, that may, depending on what they're finding, it could end up being, something that is one of the charges if he were to be arrested. But people are paying attention to that. And I know I think there's not as much talk in the media about it because we just don't know if he's even the suspect, right? We don't know.
Sure.
Yes, his car is connected, but that's really all we know for certain at this point. So maybe people aren't getting to that point, but you're right. Online, people are taking notice of that. We saw a TikTok that David had posted last year, and one of the comments on the TikTok, and this comment was from February earlier this year. So before anybody, before this happened to Celeste, before anybody was connecting his car to this, before that even happened, the comment said, waiting for LAPD to come grab your ass for talking to a 13-year-old or something about
waiting for LAPD to get your ass for messing with a 13-year-old girl.
Right. So somebody there was already putting those pieces together long before the world knew about Celeste. Clearly, people knew about David at that point, and I think his fans were aware that he was spending time, whatever their relationship was, with this young girl.
Again, that's Charles Latibeaudiere from TMZ. I now want to bring in 3 people who have been following this story from the very beginning. Lauren Conlon is the host of the true crime podcast, The Outlier, and Pop Crime TV on YouTube. Pascal hosts the very popular online show, The Pascal Show, which covers true crime. And journalist Segun Oduloluwu is also with us tonight. All right, I'm going to start with you, Lauren, if I can. David has not been arrested, and I think a lot of people are sort of astounded that there hasn't been movement. I think I went off the air on Friday and might have been a podcast afterwards saying, I expect an arrest pretty soon. What are your thoughts on this, and what's the general consensus?
Yes, I agree with you, Ashleigh, but at this point, I am thinking there is so much evidence to parse through. I mean, in terms of the fact that they searched his house for, 8 to 10 hours, that's going to take time, DNA, possible blood. And then you have David, who has admittedly said that his entire life is online. I mean, this guy is all over TikTok. He's all over Discord. He's all over Reddit. I mean, they are going through his devices, Ashleigh. They are going through his text messages, his emails. everything and anything they can find, and that takes time. Additionally, the internet sleuths have dug up so many photos, so many videos, and police are paying attention to that. But they also have to make sure everything is authenticated here, right? That everything is real. So I am hopeful that we'll see some movement this week.
Yeah, well, if anybody out there is fabricating videos with AI and sending them to the police, they're going to have a knock on their door. It's called obstruction of justice and filing false reports, etc. All right, so Pascal, something that Lauren just mentioned struck me, and that is that people have been finding things online, including video of David cleaning a pair of shoes, the same shoes that Celeste was seen wearing in other images.
Yeah, the internet sleuths will always be undefeated. And let me just say that really quick. Yes, they did find some videos of him, or one video of him actually cleaning a litany of different shoes. And at the very end, he started washing these Jordans that apparently she's wearing in some photos. Now, a lot of people are wondering, is that him? Are we watching him live getting rid of evidence to a crime, or is he just simply cleaning some shoes? I think a lot of people are wondering a lot of this. And again, man, the connections to everything has just been out of this world.
Yeah, Shagun, I have a hard time believing that anybody would commit some terrible crime and then go online to show the aftermath. I just can't imagine it. I think it's more fascinating that it's the similar pair of shoes, like just yet another connection between this girl and this singer. But Shagun, that's really the issue at this point. What kind of actual connections are being made other than she disappeared after she went to a movie with someone named David, and a teacher who said, I had a student named Celeste. Like, has anybody been able to make a hardcore connection to a romantic relationship between these two? Because you know what that means. Then it's not just a murder investigation or a suspicious death. It's also child sex crimes.
Well, Ashleigh, you bring up a really good point, and let's with what Lauren said and what Pascal said, let's keep it at its most simplest level. The tattoos are problematic, that they have matching tattoos, or the body found in the trunk of the car and the singer David have that same tattooed on their fingers. That's problematic. The point you brought up, Ashleigh, of someone going online and, wearing the same shoes. We saw O.J. Simpson write a book that said, I didn't do it, but if I did, here's how I would have done it. So people are dumb, usually criminals. That's why they get caught. They do something stupid. And this guy is doing songs and making videos where he's hacking up meat and songs to her with her name in it. So if we put it at its basis level, I need him to be questioned, because why is this underage girl in the trunk of your car? Why is this car at the house that your manager rented for you? Why do you, at the age that you might have met her, how did your paths cross? And as we're looking at all of that, because as journalists, we look for the what happened and when did you know it? I need a conversation with her parents, because I need to know how a girl this young was making her way from Lake Elsinore all the way to the Hollywood Hills and disappearing for days at a time, only to come back. And all of the discord and online knew, but her family is not involved. We agree there are a lot of questions, but some of these answers can happen if we put a microphone in front of people and start asking, what did you know and when did you know it?
I want to know if he's been brought in for questioning, or if he has invoked his right to the fifth, if that has happened so much. But I have to throw in a quick break here. Guys, don't go anywhere, because I have a lot more questions for you, especially about the sex crimes part. Murder aside, was someone doing something illegal with an underage girl as young as 11, a girl who ended up dead? Are police investigating that part of the story too? The potential of child sex crimes. We're going to dig into that with the panel next. In February of 2024, somebody commented on David's TikTok and said, quote, waiting for LAPD to get your ass for messing with a 13-year-old girl. Did that somebody know something about Celeste? want to bring back our panel of true crime podcasters, Lauren Conlon, Pascal, and Shagun Oduoluwu. Okay, I'm going to start with you again, Lauren. Isn't it surprising that we're not hearing anything at all about the investigation into a possible sex crime, given there seems to be ample evidence just online that these two met a long time ago?
Yes, that was my first thought, because normally we see, police arresting their suspect on something else in order to hold them. And this has not been the case. But something I keep thinking about here is that police really do need tangible evidence that they were in a sexual relationship. I mean, you said it though, at this point, her mother has confirmed she had a boyfriend named David. Her brother confirmed it. We've seen a lot online, but I go back to this. I really do believe that police, law enforcement are sifting through all of his devices to confirm this. And something else, Ashleigh, that I've kind of been asking myself as well is how many people knew about this? How many people either looked the other way or were possibly complicit in their alleged relationship? Because, I mean, even the teacher, that video of her teacher saying that he knew that she was talking to the singer David, and also that video or a photo, of David appearing in a parking lot that's right by Celeste's home, right by her school. He appears to be talking with another student. And listen, the rumor mill is going wild about that photo, because now there are allegations that people did know, but they were being paid off. And those are completely unfounded, but I just wanted to point out what was going on in the rumor mill. So yeah, I have a lot of questions about why there hasn't been an arrest yet on, the fact that he could have been committing statutory rape.
I will also say this. A teacher is different than the rest of us. They actually do have a duty to report. It doesn't seem to me that that particular teacher who was online knew anything more than this girl had met a person on social media. It falls on the parents at that point to really find out what their kids are doing. And if they don't come home for the night, get after it, do something about it. But it's certainly not up to the teacher to do that. Pascal, jump into that, by the way. The ages. I know I just read the whole timeline, but it's so overwhelming to even me. Remind us about when they first met and what the ages we're talking about here are.
Well, what we understand is they apparently were talking around the time that David was actually 17 or 18 and Celeste was around 12 years old. There is speculation that maybe they started sending flirtatious text messages or DMs for her as young as 11 years old. But that's still speculation right now.
Well, 11 would be just unbearable. 12 isn't any better, and 13 is awful as well. But I do think about that little moment in the chat room. Celeste in here, and that was so early in the fall that it seemed when she answered Bark that there was a familiarity there, that they may have known each other before. And she, of course, her birthday's September 7th, so she would have been 11 just a few weeks prior to that. Shagun, missing multiple times, and it's possible that the police brought her back. That's what the teacher says. We're not sure if that's what happened, but when she went missing in February the first time, only to be brought back, then to go missing again in April, that it might have been the police who brought her back the first time, which, if that's true, I don't know if you agree with me, it would be insanity that this girl was missing for a year and a half in the very place that she was likely brought back from prior.
Yeah, Ashleigh, this is the thing that kind of boggles my mind. And again, I don't want to be the hardcore cold journalist that puts a microphone in the faces of the parents. But if your girl, if anyone understands that Lake Elsinore is 78 miles away from Hollywood, how at that age is she getting back and forth to go see this guy, David? Because the Ubers are going to be in the hundreds of dollars. So where was the money coming from? How was she getting back and forth? And if she disappeared and came back, how are you as parents not sending her away to live with relatives? How are you not keeping a closer eye on her? How are you not asking the questions? Who's your boyfriend, David? Where did you go? What happened? Let's get to the bottom of this. This is not to say that they didn't, but again, all of this is way too coincidental for him to have a song about Celeste, Discord to know about it. She's found in the trunk of his car. She's 78 miles away. They're saying she's disappeared before. All of those things, unfortunately, means that no one's hands are clean in this. And I don't think when we get to the bottom of it, we're going to like the answers that we get. A young girl was dismembered. To do that, that's not a crime of passion. That's wickedness, right? This isn't like, oh, something happened, we put her in the trunk. They took the time to dismember her, to put her in the trunk, to then go on tour. If it all points eventually, as the evidence starts to look at this singer, David, we really need to wonder how this person has been operating through social media and contacting her. Like, this is very bothersome.
It will be interesting to see what witnesses they have questioned, if any, to find out evidence of relationships, because I doubt that David will want to be discussing that with police in the midst of what could be a suspicious murder. Could be a murder, could be a death, could be an overdose. We don't know yet. But my goodness, you guys are good at this. Lauren Conlon, Pascal, and Segun Oduoluwu, thank you so much for doing this tonight.
Thank you, Ashleigh. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Looking forward to seeing all three of you again. And I love that you're live streaming at the same time. Say hi to all your followers for me. It's been nice being in connection with all of you. We'll do it again. Okay, folks, talk about frustrating. Angie Resendiz is killed in Virginia in late May. Her body is found in a duffel bag. A suspect in her murder is behind bars, but it is like pulling teeth to get any information even 4 months later. Here's why. Angie and her accused killer were and are active duty military. And the court-martial process, while time-honored, happens behind closed doors. Up next, someone who was inside those doors, her mother. She is live with new details in Angie's case. If you think it's hard to pry details of a murder investigation out of a police detective, then trust me, it is. Try getting anything out of a military police detective. We've been trying since June to get details on the Navy's investigation into the murder of Angelina Resendiz, an active-duty sailor on a warship docked in port in Norfolk, Virginia. Angelina's body was found June 9th, but prosecutors now say she was killed on or about May 29th. That's a week and a half earlier. Authorities say she was killed by a fellow sailor with a history of alleged sex assaults. Everything I just said after June 9th was revealed for the very first time just last week in a closed-door pretrial hearing. But my next guest was in there. She, too, has fought an uphill battle for crumbs of information and is now fighting for justice. Esmeralda Castle is Angie Resendiz's mom. Esmeralda, thank you so much for coming back on the show. And I'm so sad that it has been so hard for you to get information about what happened to Angie. But it's pretty amazing how much you just learned in the hearing last week. Can you tell me what you found out?
There's a lot of details to what happened, but basically, there were several groups who knew about Jeremiah Copeland before he made it to Angie. And that, besides all the details of how it was done, just knowing that they knew, everyone in charge knew. The only people who didn't know were the service members.
So let me talk about a little bit about the information that came out, which is just sort of, it's jaw-dropping to think that this guy was still in the Navy. So his name is Jeremiah Copeland. He's a seaman. He's a culinary specialist, like Angie was as well. They worked together. He was charged with crimes against 4 other women, military and civilian, since the year 2023. Aggravated and abusive sexual contact, aggravated assault through strangulation, 2 separate sexual assaults, and 2 counts of domestic violence. Has anybody explained to you, Esmeralda, why he wasn't already locked up and why he was still in the Navy and able to access your daughter?
Of course not. According to the Navy, they did everything by the law, and they followed the procedures accordingly. And so no one's going to explain that to me. We just see it for ourselves, what it is. This is a pattern.
And
And this fact is
And of course,
maturing in you.
I assume they're saying that they're still, these are still charges and that they're maybe not convictions yet, and maybe that's why, but still, I don't know if you're able to, but I think you found out some details as well about how your daughter was treated after she was murdered. Like there were several days when she was hidden.
But those things are hard. Those things are hard to say and to think about and to try to understand why this is happening or why that happened or how that was allowed to happen. And everyone in between who could have done something, who could have helped her, they chose not to. It was a choice because they knew what she was being looked for and they knew it was out of character. And if they did see her and did nothing.
The details that came out in this hearing that Angie was murdered in his barracks and that he allegedly kept her remains in a briefcase or duffel bag stowed away in his closet for 4 or more days. But ultimately, Angie was found in a black wheeled duffel bag. Esmeralda, we'll continue to follow this case, and hopefully you'll be getting more information as each of these hearings is scheduled. I hope you'll come back and help us to find justice for your daughter, for Angie. I'm so sorry that you and your kids are having to go through this. Esmeralda Castle, seeking justice for her daughter, Angie. We will continue to follow that story. Still to come tonight, anybody with an internet connection can write or post or repost just about anything. Consequences be damned. But tracking down the trolls, cornering the catfish, and rooting out the revenge porn, that takes more than just expertise. It takes commitment. And my next guest has made it his mission. You're going to meet him and see what he's up against in tracking these lowlifes. That's next. James McGibney was bullied. That was when he was growing up. It was long before TikTok and long before Instagram, and it was long before he became a United States Marine. So just try it now. When James saw how social media really changed the game, especially in the thriving field of revenge porn, he said, enough. And he founded the website Bullyville to fight back. You have seen his work in the Netflix series, The Most Hated Man on the Internet. Big recommendation of mine, by the way. And James has now a new special called Bully Hunter, airing tomorrow night on A&E. James McGibney, welcome to the program. Thank you for your service, not just as a Marine, but also in going after these monsters. I can't tell you how much I hate these guys. I don't often call people scum. I think it's a terrible thing to say. But if we're going to ascribe a label, scum is a good one for these online bullies.
Yeah, absolutely. Just the worst of the worst. And I go after the worst of the worst, you know, where law enforcement can't figure out who they are because they're hiding. And that's a big thing with these bullies. It's all the same. They hide behind the, IP addresses that you can't figure out who they are. They're usually in the basement eating a bag of Doritos on their 9th Mountain Dew of the day. It's always the same. And I love being able to pull them out of obscurity and just shining a light on them.
Ooh, me too, but how do you do it? Because I think the rest of us have that problem. They're always using some other kind of IP and we can't find them.
Yeah, that's one of my skills. I mean, I had no friends in high school. I'm a nerd, so I know how to do that. And there's different ways to do it. I don't like to reveal my secrets all the time, but I can tell you that the big thing for me that I'm focusing on, it's twofold. Revenge porn, and obviously tomorrow on A&E, that's the Bully Hunter show that's coming out. But sextortion is the biggest issue I'm dealing with right now. The highest suicide rate in the country right now is 14 to 16-year-old boys who are getting sextorted.
Do you ever do the Chris Hansen thing where you actually can find them and then say, have a seat, and then just like confront them? Or is that sort of too dangerous and off limits? I
do that tomorrow night. You're going to see that actually happen. I confront the person. But not only do I confront them, one of the victims confronts them. And I was a little worried about that because, you know, I never want to re-victimize somebody, and having the person in front of her that distributed her images to hundreds of websites, I was a little unsure how it was going to go, but I was so proud of her. As you'll see tomorrow, she really, you know, confronted him, and it just shows that once you give a woman her power back, look out.
So I only have a second left here, but I need to ask you that, you know, are you going after like victims' family members? Because I can't believe that the Petitos have been attacked by bullies, Shanann Watts' family, the Idaho 4 kids' families. Are you going after those people?
I do go at, you know, that's a big problem that we deal with actually is families of victims will get attacked for no reason other than people think that they can humiliate and destroy their lives. And I do go after them. And, you know, I always find my guy or woman. I always find out who's behind it. So there's never been a situation where I haven't figured it out.
James McGibney, you are not only a fine U.S. Marine, but you're also Dr. McGibney, and you're the coolest nerd I know. Thank you for doing this, and thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm a huge fan of yours, by the way.
Aw, that's the nicest thing ever. Guys, it's called Bully Hunter. It's tomorrow night on A&E, and we are back in just a moment. Okay, tomorrow on the show, veteran prosecutor Matt Murphy is going to talk about the David case. And why does that matter? Because he's a homicide prosecutor from Riverside County. So this is his neck of the woods. Also on my podcast, Drop Dead Serious, a little bit later on, more on that timeline of everything between David and Celeste and what connects them. Thanks for being here, everybody. Stick around. Cuomo's next.